that? Craig's wife. Craig's wife. Is she also an attorney?
She's also a city attorney. We'll find out, won't we? Good evening and welcome to the Albany City Council. I'd like to call to order the meeting for September 4th, 2018. Please join Vice Mayor Nason in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Barnes? Here. Councilmember Moss? Here. Councilmember Pilch?
Here.
Vice Mayor Nason?
Here.
Mayor McQuaid?
Here. Report on action taken in closed session. Council gave direction to staff. Consent calendar. Consent calendar items are considered to be routine by the City Council and will be enacted by one motion. By approval of the consent calendar, staff recommendations will be adopted unless otherwise modified by the City Council. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless a council member or member of the audience requests removal of the items from the consent calendar. I'd like to pull 5.7, 5.9, 5.17. Other council members?
I'd like to pull 5.12 and 5.14.
And 5.18 for me.
I'm good.
Any member of the public wish to pull an item? Is seeing none.
Did we pull the item concerning the sidewalk? I may have missed that one. And now I cannot, let's see. Sidewalk
It's
is...
5.23.
523.
I'd like to pull that as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, I believe I'm first with 5.7. This is a proclamation in honor of No Hate Week, which will be celebrated in the Bay Area the week of November 11 through 17. And I would like to read into the record a letter from Superintendent Williams from the Albany School District. Dear Mayor McQuaid, I write this letter in support of the City of Albany's proclamation in honor of No Hate Week. Given the increase in hate-motivated behavior in our country and the attacks on immigrants, Muslims, people of color, women, and the LGBTQI community, I stand united with the City of Albany in its endeavor to create a safe, united, and inclusive community. I commend the City of Albany for adopting the Stand United Against Hate campaign and for declaring Albany a sanctuary city. I applaud the City of Albany's commitment to organizing No Hate Week that will take place from November 11 through 17, 2018, and for hosting events that promote education, compassion, and cooperation. The Albany Unified School District is committed to creating and nurturing a safe and welcoming, inclusive environment, one that respects and values the diversity in our community. I am proud to support this resolution and the appropriate educational and community events. Sincerely, Valerie Williams, Superintendent. I'm also pulling 5.9. Resolution in honor of Albany Police Lieutenant Daniel Adams upon his retirement from service. He's not here with us tonight. I won't read the proclamation. It'll be read tomorrow. But I do want to publicly thank Dan for his many, many, many years of service to the community and our city through the police department. So Dan, thank you very much. I think 5.12, you're next.
Yeah, this is a proposed letter of opposition to a proposed regulation by the Bureau of Cannabis Control that would prohibit jurisdictions from refusing to allow cannabis deliveries within their jurisdiction. And I'm concerned about this as policy. I know that I assume this came from the League of Cities.
Actually, no, it didn't come from, well, it probably did originally. But the reason I put it on there, it's not about whether or not we approve deliveries. It's about losing the local control for cities to determine what we want to do.
Yeah, I understand that, but I'm reluctant to vote for this because I think that with legalization, the people who are most impacted, who truly need cannabis delivery, are people who are homebound typically due to cancer treatment or some other kind of illness that causes nausea, and they're looking for relief through cannabis, making it harder for them to receive cannabis is a disturbing, seems to me a disturbing policy. The justification that a jurisdiction might want to protect its brick and mortar cannabis dispensaries does not seem to me an adequate justification for denying people delivery. And I think that it's appropriate enough for state policy to try to assure that. And we've decided not to have brick and mortar, at least for now, but to allow cannabis deliveries. I'm not sure we should, that I would support taking a position on this one way or the other.
I concur, and I would either request we pull this or pull it for a separate vote.
Let's pull it for a separate vote. 514.
Oh, wait, that was another one of mine, right?
Yeah. So I had some,
Did you also?
I had some questions about,
Okay.
the questions were, in order to pass this shelter crisis thing, we'll be eligible for some funding from the state. How much would be, I saw that there were amounts for the whole county. How much might Albany get out of all that? Do we have any sense?
They're still working out the details in terms of how the funding will be applied to the eligible cities. It's still a
Okay.
work in progress. This is the first step to enable the city to become eligible for the funds.
Okay, because it was, all right. Do we have any sense of the current number of homeless that might be? I presume this would be distributed on a per capita basis. If Albany has X percentage of the homeless population in Alameda County, we might get that percentage of these funds?
You'll see in the resolution, it's a template resolution that we were required to adhere to, and it indicates the last point in time count, which was 66.
Right.
You know, there are some concerns regarding the validity of that count.
Right.
It will be conducted annually, so with the next point in time count, we'll have a better sense of the exact numbers that we're working with.
Okay.
Well, when the point-in-time count came out, saying that there were 66 persons, I found that, well, actually it said that there were 65 people living in tents or sleeping in the open, and one person living in a vehicle. And I thought the first number was outlandishly large, and the second number was outlandishly small, since I could name more people than that who we know to be living in vehicles. And I raised my concern with staff. They raised the concern with everyone home, and we got some maps of where the homeless individuals had been seen. And that only heightened the concern because none of them were west of San Pablo Avenue, which makes no sense whatsoever to me. Just from being around Albany, when I see homeless people, they're usually in the vicinity of Target or on Albany Hill or, you know, some other sort of wooded area. So I consulted with Police Chief McQuiston, And someone, I believe it was Isabel, reached out to Robbie at the Berkeley Food and Housing Project, and they said, no, this was not a realistic count. So, and that probably our people sleeping in tents or in the open are closer to 10 than to 70, as the point in time count indicated. Nobody ever was able to figure out what went wrong, and we couldn't get more detailed information. But under these circumstances, I just do not feel like we can, or I can't vote for a finding that 66 persons within the city of Albany are homeless and living without shelter. I would be willing to sign off on a finding that a point-in-time count was held in 2017, and that point-in-time count stated that 66 persons were living without shelter. But I just don't believe that the point-in-time count was realistic, and I think it would be a mistake and not right to make a finding that our staff has indicated, that just common sense and our staff have indicated is just not correct.
Isabel, did you talk with Linda Gardner from the county about this?
No, I wasn't able to reach her. So, but the resolution is due October 5th. So if the council wants a little bit more time to see if Councilmember Nason's revisions can be made without, keeping us from getting some funding, I'm happy to do that. Okay. We can bring it back at the next September meeting.
At the Everyone Home meeting, I did specifically ask about that because I knew that the count number wasn't exactly correct. And, her indication was that that's the number we're going to go with. If you want to be included in the funding, this is what needs to happen. But if you want to reach out to her, that would be great. We can hold that until the next meeting.
Right. I think we would still use the 66 number, but we would mention that it's the point-in-time count number, not that the city of Albany finds that there's 66.
We could find that the point-in-time count reported 66 persons within the city of Albany homeless and living without shelter. It begs the broader question of whether the money could be better spent elsewhere, but we are Albany. We'd like to be able to do something, and it is significant, even if it is 5 to 10 people living homeless here. To us, that is significant, and we'd like to take care of it.
And the other thing also is that if we don't have a resolution, then nonprofits who receive funding, this funding, wouldn't be able to use it to serve Albany.
Yeah.
So that's the other reason also to do this resolution.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we'll pull that out. So I think 517 is the next one. I pulled that because I'm the giftor in this case, so I need to recuse myself from this vote. So we have to vote separately on 517.
I will also have to recuse myself due to my proximity from the project.
When you recuse yourself, will you be leaving the room, or how far?
Well, I understand we can stay here.
You can't stay here?
We'll
Okay.
just pull his item and
Okay.
I'll close my eyes though.
I do understand that it's more typical to leave the room during a recusal.
That's fine. I mean, I did ask staff and they said it was fine, whatever the pleasure of the council is.
On a consent calendar item, it's not necessary to recuse.
I see.
I mean, it's necessary to recuse, it's not necessary to leave the room.
I see.
You can
Thank
just
you.
take the vote and indicate that you've recused yourself on that item.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
And we have 518.
Oh, that was mine. Diesel emissions. I don't. I took a long, hard look at this one because it seemed to me to. I wasn't aware of it. It came out of the blue from the Air Quality District, and they're asking all these cities to get on board. So it seems like a good thing. Although what I've heard is that. There is cleaner diesel, but if Bay Area, if the Air Quality Management District is saying that we need to get out of the business of burning diesel, then I certainly believe them. Yeah, I believe it is a contributor to particulate matter, and I do note that the staff report says that there are no alternatives at this point in time. And I just wanted to note that I'm hoping there may very well be alternatives by the time that the deadline comes around. Not only, I think, for equipment, battery-powered equipment is less likely to be viable at that time. However, fuel cell technology is likely to be available for applications like this. So I just wanted just a note to staff really to remember that there are, that the situation is changing quickly and to be on the lookout for those opportunities to examine new fuel cell trucks that are coming down the line, or even if there are battery powered vehicles coming down the line. That's all. It was just a note.
Great, thank you. On 523, Nick, I believe that's you also?
Yes, I pulled this. There is a member of the public who wishes to speak on this item. Should we ask that member to speak first?
Sure.
It's 523, yeah, the sidewalks.
Is this on? Yeah. So my name is Sarita Sarvate, and I live on Key Road Boulevard. I'm a homeowner. And about a year and a half ago, I started to call the city because I needed to, my driveway cracked and is sinking. And the problem was the sidewalk is also sinking and cracked. So in order for me to fix my driveway, the sidewalk needed to be fixed. And going back and forth and many phone calls later, I accidentally, because of my persistence and keep bothering the person at the counter, discovered that there was, in fact, a sidewalk program. Well, then they told me after many phone calls that my street is on the list, the sidewalk in front of my house, but they wouldn't tell me how long it would take. So I was so frustrated because the driveway is sinking, and so I finally postponed it for the next summer. In the meantime, the person who was in charge quit. Anyway, then I thought of something else the next summer, which was that the main sewer line was supposed to be replaced. And then my neighbor said, well, you will fix your driveway, and the next day the city will come and dig it up. So I started calling the city again, and much to my amazement, the public works staff swore that there was no plan to replace the sewer line. So I had to educate them, like, okay, a few years ago you planned to do this, then there was a gas pipeline on top of it, so you postponed the thing. Anyway, so finally, again, after many, many phone calls, I happened to come upon the one person who knew that there was, in fact, going to be a sewer line replacement, and it happened that last summer. Well, in the meantime, I was trying to talk to the city about coordinating the two projects. I mean, as somebody who worked in government and policy for many years, it made sense to repair the sidewalks after the sewer line has been replaced, because they have to dig it up already, and they have to dig up this driveway too. Well, nobody paid any attention to me, so they did that 2 weeks ago. They finished the sewer line project. In the meantime, I've been told my block is on the list to sidewalk repair, but they can't give me a firm date, so I'm postponing it again. But my point is not to gripe about my personal issue. I think this is an issue that's facing a lot of homeowners in the city, and it doesn't seem like the sidewalk department wants to coordinate with the sewer line department. Also, in addition, I think they need to give information to the public about the sidewalk repair program, whether it's 2 years ahead, because, people are planning renovations to their properties, and they need to know this information. And thirdly, I do think that the communications with the Public Works Department need to be improved because, I got so much runaround, and it's only because I was so persistent that I got some information. So anyway, that's my recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you.
So do you have any questions, or no? Thanks.
I just, this is Sarita is a constituent who had reached out to me, and I just wanted to say that she is not alone in reaching out to me about issues regarding questions regarding the sidewalk program. So one of the, I think this is probably the top question I feel from constituents is, when is my sidewalk going to be repaired? When? And so on. So since Sarita had reached out to me, I encouraged her to come and give public comment if she wanted to tell her story. So I wondered if staff had any comments with regard to, number one, coordination with the sewer programs and sidewalk programs, and number two, perhaps, is there a best contact in Public Works to, or best place to go for questions about the sidewalk program?
All right, so, boy, there's a lot in there. In terms of coordination with the projects, the sewer project, the sidewalk project really run on different timelines. So we do try to coordinate, but the sewer projects are within the streets and follow the sewer lines, whereas the sidewalk projects are these small, discrete projects spread out across the city. So we do our best to coordinate those, but that's very difficult. In most cases, though, the sewer work does not impact sidewalks. It's mostly out in the street, so there really isn't a conflict. The key route issue is something that was a little bit of an anomaly where we had it programmed for one way, a trenchless technology, and then we had to open cut it, and that delayed the project, and I think that was some of the confusion. And we've had staff turnover too, so I think that's part of the confusion that you were seeing, and we're trying to correct that. In terms of the sidewalk program, we are ramping up and we're building our list, and we want to be more transparent on where you are on the list, where people are on the list, and get that an indication of a timeline of when people will have their sidewalk done. What we have done, and that's consistent with the policy, is to send out notifications to everyone who is going to be on the list when we first go to traffic and safety. So we do that. And we are working on a way to better publish it so people have a sense of where they are on the list, and maybe on the website or something, but we're still working through those details. The fail-safe is to call the Public Works number, or through the website there is a service request to say, hey, am I on the list? Where am I on the list? And our project manager, Razu Engin, who's done a phenomenal job in managing this project, will get back to you with the best information that we have.
I do appreciate that these projects can be very difficult to project manage, and then they change, and where there was coordination, now the time is separated. I appreciate that, but I think the last piece of information you gave was very valuable, that number one, people can go to the website, and there's a little link on the bottom of the website that shows that we're for the service request, and maybe we can bring that up on the screen. I think that's very important for everyone to know. And then I also heard that if you call Public Works, perhaps Razu is the person most in the know about the sidewalk program.
Right. And our preference is to go through the service request, because then we have a documented trail of when you called and when we can respond. So
I think you just have to go to the bottom of the page. You're on the menu now.
Service request.
Scroll all the way down. Oh, there it is too. Okay, never mind. think it's also at the very bottom of every page as well.
I'd also like to clarify that the sidewalk parcel tax was adopted by the voters in November 2016. We just completed the first round of sidewalk repair projects. There is a significant amount to continue, so bear with us as we gain economies of scale.
Absolutely. All right, thank you for answering those questions. Appreciate it. Sure.
It occurred to me, listening to what you say, for the most part, the sewer project replacement is out in the street.
Correct.
And the sidewalks are the sidewalks. And I think some of the general public might be confused with this idea that if they're told their sewer line is failing, and that's why the sidewalk is sinking, it isn't the sewer lines that the city's working on, it's their lateral.
Right.
And perhaps you want to put some information out on, the sort of the difference. I'm sure there are many situations, or there are some situations where that city sewer line would be affecting the sidewalk, but for the most part, the homeowner is responsible for their own sewer lateral.
I think there's a figure on our website that shows the division line of ownership on the sewer lateral. What you're talking about is the upper lateral is the homeowner's responsibility. Oh, there we go. Scroll down. Yeah. Here's a figure showing the sewer lateral where the upper part, which is essentially from the planter strip in, is the homeowner responsibility, and then the section in the street and up to the planter strip is typically the city responsibility.
But the sidewalk is on what side of that little?
Sidewalk is
to the left or the right of the little
the sidewalk.
vertical?
That's the curb. The sidewalk could be on either side. It could be on the upper lateral side or the lower lateral side, depending on.
No, no, not right now.
Because I just wanted to clarify the situation in this particular case.
But you're still talking. So hang on just a minute. So did you finish what you were going to say?
And just one other point, there are instances, and in this instance on Key Route, where the sewer main was aligned more in the sidewalk, so we tore up the sidewalk in that case,
Right.
and we replaced the sidewalk.
So that's more of an exception there.
Correct.
So Mark, before you leave, could you maybe give her your card, and if she could contact you directly tomorrow?
Absolutely.
Would that work?
Absolutely.
Great, thank you. You're done?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go back. We need to vote separately on 512, which is the cannabis delivery letter. Not quite sure how to word that. I'll move that we include 512 sending a letter of opposition regarding cannabis delivery to the consent calendar. Does that work as a motion? It leaves it in there?
Are you voting on it separately?
512, right?
So just move that item.
Okay, so I'll move we accept 512 as written.
So you're pulling it as a separate vote right now?
Right.
Okay.
And hearing no second, I
Well,
guess. Okay,
But do we have discussion? You want to?
so we can have more discussion.
Well, I'm in support of this letter because in general, I'm in support of local control, but the thing I find disturbing about removing the letter is that it basically says we here in little Albany, California, have a better idea of what some town in, say, Colusa County ought to be doing vis-a-vis this issue than their own city council. And I don't think that's true. If there is a town somewhere, and the city council, for whatever reason in that town, decides home delivery is not a good idea, I feel like that's their decision to make, not mine. So I think small jurisdictions should maintain the right to have a decision on this issue.
You know, I went back and forth on this issue. I'm actually somewhat persuaded by Councilmember Nason's argument. You know, if there are people out there who, you know, cannabis products probably could be helpful to, and they probably don't have the way to go and buy them themselves, then home delivery might does make some kind of sense. I don't know how we can ban a particular delivery product. I mean, do we have the right to ban Amazon deliveries or take out food deliveries from Berkeley or anything like that? I mean, if cannabis is now a legal commodity in the state of California, then I think it should be treated like that.
Well, the existing law states local jurisdictions have the ability to adopt and enforce local ordinances to regulate cannabis business. So basically, the state agency is trying to supersede the state law, which I think I think that's a problem. I think once there's a law, an agency shouldn't be allowed to circumvent it. Having said that, I'm not opposed to delivery. I don't think this is good practice.
I just don't think we need to take a position one way or another, especially if it's a legal issue, the agency's interpretation of the law versus somebody else's interpretation of the law. They could, these things can get pretty technical. I just feel the state has a legitimate interest in making sure that all homebound people in need of medical marijuana can get it delivered. So I'm inclined to say that's okay for the state to do. That's an intrusion on local control that I can live with. But my preference would be that we take no position one way or the other.
We're ready to vote. Will you poll the council, please?
Councilmember Barnes?
Can we clarify what a yes and a no vote means here? Yes means to go ahead and support the letter, correct? Yes.
Councilmember Moss?
No.
Councilmember Pilch?
No.
Vice Mayor Nason?
No.
Mayor McQuaid?
Yes, and we will not be sending the letter. Okay, 17, Nick and I are recusing ourselves on that one.
But I would, think about it a little bit. If council would prefer that we leave the room, I'm fine with that. If council would be more comfortable discussing the item with myself out of the room, I'm perfectly happy to do so.
I feel like I move 517. I'm not sure we need a discussion on it.
Second.
Councilmember Barnes?
Yes.
Councilmember Moss?
Yes.
Councilmember Pilch?
Recused.
Vice Mayor Nason?
Yes.
Mayor McQuaid?
Recused. And it passes, thank you. Okay, can I get a motion on the rest of the consent calendar?
So moved.
Second.
Will the council, please?
Councilmember Barnes?
Yes.
Councilmember Moss?
Yes.
Councilmember Pilch?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nason?
Yes.
Mayor McQuaid?
Yes. The motion carries. That brings us to good of the city. Good of the city is a time for persons desiring to address the city council on an item that is not on the agenda. Please note city policy limits each speaker to 3 minutes. The Brown Act limits the council's ability to take and/or discuss items that are not on the agenda. Therefore, such items are normally referred to staff for comment or to a future agenda. Do we have speaker cards?
No.
No? Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to address the council on an item not on the agenda? Seeing no one, we'll move on. Council member reports on meetings attended, announcements of future meetings, city manager report. So what have you been doing on your summer vacation, folks?
The only meeting that I can recall in the month of August was an emergency meeting that our mayor also attended for the Alameda County Transportation Commission. It was called to forward a project in the Port of Oakland that will widen the underground road underneath some railroads. And it was the only reason they had to do an emergency meeting is this thing was caught up in a lawsuit. So they needed whoever was around to come in and vote on it. Other than that, I could show slides of my summer vacation, but I think I'll pass it on.
The meetings that come to mind are the meetings that Mayor McQuaid and I attended with regard to Alta Bates. the effort to keep emergency and other hospital services in our community. It was a very productive meeting. The health impact assessment is making progress, talking about what the loss of this facility would mean for our community, and it is those efforts are ongoing. Also, Mayor McQuaid and I attended a meeting with the East Bay Regional Park District to discuss potential amendment of the MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding between the Park District and the city. That meeting was not as productive, but the East Bay Regional Park District is making progress, as everybody who goes to the waterfront can see, and I think that we simply may have to be patient and wait for that project to be completed before necessarily revising our working relationship with the East Bay Regional Park District. Cordial, but not substantive in anything coming out of it.
Okay, Nick?
Let's see if I forgot to do my homework on this one, but I believe the meetings I attended were the ABCE meeting. We discussed taking positions on legislation since it was getting to be the time of the flurry of activity in Sacramento, and we tabled a lot of that discussion till September, since just getting a policy together about how we take positions was turning out to be quite a challenge to do at that point in the meeting. So I think we may have taken some non-controversial positions. There was a Bill 813, I think is the number, that the mayor and I had talked about potentially opposing, which was about the regionalization of the grid, tying together not only California and several other states in a more of a regional grid. This has been rather controversial. There's been many opinions on this, and I've now learned that it has died for this year, and so will not be. It's not under consideration at this time, which is probably a good thing considering the controversial nature of it. I went to the League of California Cities meeting. I think many of us were there, maybe 4 out of 5 of us, where we heard about state ballot measures and the campaigns thereof. I also participated, along with at least 2 other of us, in National Night Out activities. And I think that does it for me.
Okay, thank you. I hosted the Community Leader Quarterly meeting that I've convened. I've attended several of the planning meetings for United Against Hate Week. The Vice Mayor and I met with Vice President of the School Board and Senator Skinner to discuss legislative assistance that she might be able to provide on the California Voting Rights Act. I attended the Pension Board meeting, the Chamber Mixer. I did a ride-along with the Albany Police Department, which I would recommend that my fellow council members do at some point. It's very interesting. I met with the Governmental Affairs Liaison for Alameda Alliance for Health. Participated in a CERT training with Albany CERT members, as well as Berkeley and members of the Albany Fire Department. Had an Everyone Home Board meeting, attended Berkeley's Regional Climate Town Hall. I attended Let's Talk, which is a program on diversity with the city of Piedmont. The Vice Mayor and I went to several League of Women Voters meetings supporting our ballot measures. And I also signed on to Mayor for Our Lives, which is a voter registration drive for high school students and college people. And I'll be working with Albany High School on that. We have a city manager report.
So staff has been busy during August recess, so bear with me as I have more of a lengthy update for you, but hopefully it's of value. With regard to our Public Works Department, the Evelyn Street paving is essentially complete. That was a project that used SB1 funding. The sidewalks, as we just mentioned, we have completed the first phase of those. We are working hard to get round 2 up and running, which is you saw in your consent calendar item tonight, an extension of an existing contract to continue the progress to date. I'd also like to note that each, again, as we begin to make this program more robust, each proposed project site where sidewalks will be improved will include one of these signs. Speaks to Albany and how we try to communicate proactively. Also, the sewer rehab work, we're about 25% complete with construction of the 2018 sewer rehab project. And we are, in our Public Works Department, finally at full strength with a full staff. This is since June, we've been working towards this. Moving on, our police department has a unique opportunity to test out one of the post-police department training programs. It's a new program on LGBT, awareness for law enforcement. And Albany is the first department in the state to take this training and speak to the effectiveness of it. We're delighted to have the opportunity. Our recreation department is very busy right now. Shelley is here tonight, but I'd like to just touch on many of the things that are coming up in September. We are up to our elbows in work for our next Dinner with Albany. It's sold out in record time. And that event is on September 29th. We're working with over 45 businesses for the event, and also preceding that evening is Albany Local Week, where we have a number of other businesses participating. So please stay tuned to our website for many opportunities. It's a great time to celebrate locally. Music in the Park starts tomorrow night. Our first band will be there at 6:30 p.m., and it occurs every Wednesday in Memorial Park. The Solano Complete Streets pop-up event is Saturday, September 22nd from 2 to 5 at Flowerland. Again, as a refresher, this is a planning process to look at Solano, the upper half of Solano, and figure out improvements for everybody that uses the street. So it'll be a great hands-on opportunity. The pop-up will be at Solano and Pomona Avenue. The election is November 6th, 2018. Please register to vote. Also, you'll see on our website, on the elections page, all of the proposed ballot measures are included for reference, as well as the arguments for and against those measures and the full text of those measures. Please refer to those as the election comes closer when you start to have questions about what one of them may mean. My last order of business is to welcome 2 new employees. We have Heather Rowden, our finance director, here with us this evening. Heather has been here for about 3 weeks, and she's come from Maine. We also have someone who is not a new employee, but who recently received a promotion, and that is Sid Schoenfeld, who is also here with us this evening. He is the city's neighborhood services manager. You may recognize him from our senior center. He's now at City Hall. However, he will be out and about in the community very soon, working on disaster preparedness, neighborhood resiliency, and overall citywide engagement. So I'd love to welcome them both to their new position and to the City of Albany.
Welcome.
We're so glad to have both of you here. Is that it? Okay. Okay, that brings us to the public hearing. Proposed amendments to Chapter 5, Section 5-24 of the Albany Municipal Code, tobacco retailer license to prohibit the sale of flavored tobacco products. May we have a staff report, please?
Yes, the ordinance you have before you is something that is listed in the City Council strategic plan. Again, in August, we had an opportunity to conduct some research and analysis regarding this proposed ordinance, and you have a draft in front of you. Fairly straightforward in nature. Basically, the effect is to ban flavored tobacco products. We have received some comments concerning the ordinance, and I'd like to clarify one edit that we did make. The staff report indicated a 6-month grace period. We have ensured that that is replicated in the draft ordinance language as well. The intent is that there would be a 6-month grace period prior to the ordinance becoming in effect. In terms of outreach, we sent notification to the vendors of this product, which was sent out in August. In terms of implementation, this would be something that the police department would be tasked with enforcement, and they are well-versed in that through other reviews that they do of this type of retail establishment. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have regarding the proposed ordinance.
Can you just, for the sake of the audience, explain the difference between a first reading and a second reading and what the schedule is likely to be?
Absolutely. First reading is a time for the council to look at the draft ordinance, provide any recommendations or edits, and receive public comment on any concerns or questions or issues that they may have. Depending on the substance of the questions or edits received, staff typically returns at the next meeting with a second reading, which means that the ordinance is adopted at that point in time. So you aren't in effect adopting anything tonight, you're reviewing a draft.
Are there other questions from council?
El Cerrito has adopted a similar ordinance, but other neighboring cities, Berkeley and Richmond, are they?
Did you? I actually have that somewhere.
Okay. It only, our staff report only mentions El Cerrito and San Francisco.
Berkeley, I don't have similar.
I would have expected Berkeley to have been out in front on this, but also Richmond would be interesting. Anyway, that's okay.
No questions.
I have a question for our attorney.
Yes.
As a rule, cigarettes and tobacco products are regulated at the state level, but we apparently, obviously, have some local authority in this case. That seems odd to me. I'm just wondering why that would be.
In this case, there's also some federal legislation. Federal legislation actually prohibits flavored cigarettes, but it doesn't prohibit some of the other types of flavored cigarettes, such as electronic cigarettes, hookah. There's a variety of different methods of getting the flavor into the cigarette itself, or the method of inhaling, and those are not regulated at the federal level. The state does not regulate them either, which means there is the authority. The federal legislation actually provides the ability for local entities to address these issues.
And then just an issue about consistency. And I know the rules about marijuana dispensaries are changing. Do we have the authority, or does the state have the authority to regulate the flavors of marijuana?
To the extent that you define tobacco products to include marijuana, then the answer would be yes. Consistent with, you have to read that together with the marijuana laws, which, is allowed now in the state, and so have to think a little more carefully about, what sort of restrictions you could do there.
And vis-a-vis,
But in this ordinance, tobacco product is not inclusive of marijuana, so you're not touching that at this point.
and let's, take for as an example these little flash drive-like objects that dispense
It's an
nicotine.
electronic cigarette.
Right, what are they called?
The vaping thing.
Yeah, it's a
Juuls, they're
vaping-
called Juul, Juul. If that is just a pure chemical, conceivably you could synthesize that in the lab and not derive it at all from tobacco. If it's just a pure nicotine compound, is that also regulated under this ordinance?
tobacco product is defined as a tobacco product that contains a constituent that imparts a characterizing flavor. So,
My big concern is jewels and the use of jewels by teenagers, and I'm wondering if we're even touching those here in this ordinance.
If you check the definition of flavored tobacco product, e-cigarettes is included.
So all forms of electronic cigarettes, including jewels, would be included.
any electronic smoking device containing nicotine.
I do have a letter from the superintendent. Is it appropriate to read it at this point, Nicole? Dear Mayor McQuaid, I write this letter in support of the City of Albany to prohibit the sale of flavored tobacco products. As we all know, the use of tobacco can cause or contribute to cancer, heart disease, and respiratory disease. Further, flavored non-cigarette tobacco products have become increasingly common, and data from the National Youth Tobacco Survey indicates that more than 2/5 of U.S. middle and high school smokers report using flavored tobacco products. AUSD promotes the health and well-being of our students, and we strive to teach our children to make healthy choices. I applaud the City of Albany for placing the health of our children as a priority and their efforts to help minimize the availability of these products to our youth. Sincerely, Valerie Williams, Superintendent. And with that, we'll open the public hearing. Do you have speaker cards?
Yes, I do. The first three is Alan Kane, Steve, last name starts with M, and Ben.
Yeah, if you would line up behind him and then just come up when it's your turn, you'll have 3 minutes.
Hi, my name's Alan Kane. Thanks for listening. I think that I am partly responsible for the embryonic stage that this ordinance is in, because I personally started a group 10 years ago called the Blue Glove Crew, which picks up trash back then every day over a 5-mile course, but now picks up trash on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And it occurred to me as I was doing this that we were often picking up wrappers of tobacco products that were flavored. I was shocked, frankly. Grape, watermelon. I don't know if anybody remembers the candy cigarettes that they outlawed a long time ago that they gatewayed us with. But I was also amazed at the price, given the fact that cigarettes are so expensive, but these tobacco products that were packaged as cigars seemed to be so cheap. 99 cents. They all boasted in big, 99 cents splashes. The third thing was the availability. I mean, frankly, they're everywhere, and my very loose litmus on how I think they're mostly consumed by kids is the fact that all the wrappers seem to be near the high school, or at least on paths that lead to the high school. So I am not a big fan of flavored tobacco products at all. I will also say that I'm not a big fan of seeing choices eliminated. This whole thing came up to me about a week and a half ago. I spoke to the president of the Chamber of Commerce this evening, who didn't even know about this meeting tonight. And I do want to talk about transparency. You have a large group here that's probably going to speak against this item, who probably was told about this item. I think the letters went out in August. And I don't understand why these decisions are made. And I understand this is the first reading, so I get that. But I don't understand why the train is unveiled when it's between stations. It's left its original station. And by the way, you all have to navigate this as soon as possible to fight for your right. I actually didn't know that this was going to be an elimination. I thought it was going to be a heavy tax. So there's a lot of things that even I'm unaware of. And I can't even imagine people whose livelihoods depend on this or their businesses depend on the sale of this, how they were kind of tossed under the bus to a small degree. I mean, the reality is this is a very new subject for a lot of people in this room. And as much as I cannot stand the thought of seeing flavored tobacco products within city limits of a town that has such high moral values, I just don't also understand how an item like this can come up in a week or a month. Thank you.
Thank you.
Steve M.
Hello, my name is Steve. I'm here with Mikey and Jake. We run the electronic cigarette store in Albany on Clay in San Pablo. We've been here for 5 years. We're well established, reputable. We run an honest business, and you can check our reviews and our credibility online. And we have always abided by all federal, state, and local laws. We've helped hundreds of people quit smoking by using electronic cigarettes as a cessation device, and it's a way better alternative than regular cigarettes because you're not actually burning tobacco. You're just getting the nicotine from it, but not through smoke. That leads to many people eventually moving to no nicotine and quitting completely. That's our primary goal. We are a specialty electronic cigarette store, and that's our primary goal, is to help people quit. We're not trying to sell to minors at all. We offer service, advice. We educate our customers on how to use the product and how to be successful. We tailor programs specially to certain individuals that need help, or have a goal they need to meet. We always check ID, and we don't want to jeopardize this community. We love this community. And to address the flavored tobaccos, products, they're not marketed to minors. They're for adult use. Different flavors have been very beneficial to helping people quit true cigarettes. And saying flavored tobacco is marketed to minors, just like saying flavored alcohol is marketed to minors. Another point is these products are available online, and regardless if it's banned here or not, banning the flavors would just send the sales away, but would not stop the sales. We generate tax revenue for the city, and that can be verified by looking at our past returns. If this ordinance passes, we'll be encouraging online sales. We are a local, small shop. We run a low profile, never had a problem in the community. You can verify that by asking the police department. And this ban will be detrimental to us. We spent a lot of time and effort running an honest business, and we take pride. It's our passion, it's our livelihood. And we just want to inform the community that banning the flavored tobacco here will not stop accessibility to minors. As I said again, you can get it online. We have to be responsible, we have to card, and we do. Again, our customers are all adults, and that's it. If you have any questions or would like to talk about this further, just reach out to me. Thank you.
Thank you.
After Ben would be Eileen Lewis and Chris Wong.
Good evening, and thank you all for having me. My name's Ben Zickerman, born and raised in Berkeley. I live in Richmond. I have a law office in Oakland. I'm a sole practitioner. I'm also a customer of Better Cloud Vapor. A little bit about me. I wanted to come here tonight because I think there's a lot of misconceptions about what vaping is in the public. And I knew that, when I got into vaping, I didn't know what it was about, and I've learned a lot of things since that time. Like many, I started smoking when I was about 14. By the time I was done with college, I had a 2-pack-a-day habit. I tried to quit through my 20s. I tried Chantix. I tried therapy. I tried low doses of antidepressants, didn't like them. Pretty much patches. None of it worked. About 5 years ago, I had a client who recommended that I try vaping. He thought that it might agree with some of my more OCD tendencies. And sure enough, within a month or so, I had completely switched over to vaping. And I learned a lot of things about the vaping industry. It really is not a creature of big tobacco. It's been fighting big tobacco. Big tobacco has been trying to eat the vaping industry. Most vape shops don't sell products that are created by big tobacco like 410 or Blue. These are independent products from independent people, and they are there as a alternative to cigarettes. They have less additives. And the most important thing is that you can modulate and control how much nicotine you get. I started vaping about 5 years years ago, I was at 12 milligrams of nicotine, right? That's per milliliter. I've gone down and down and down. I'm now at 3. Next step, 1.5, and then eventually 0. And maybe I can be free of this. Why I'm here is because I've been going almost exclusively to Better Cloud for the last 3 years. They're a great shop. They care about their products. They only sell the best products. They don't have questionable coil packs that might have heavy metals in them. They get vape juice from legitimate sources that don't have questionable contents. And they really do their best to cater to people like me who are trying to quit. Also, they are really dogged about carding. I'm 38 years old. When I first went there about 3 years ago, they carded me. Bevmo hasn't carded me in 10 years. And so they're very, very serious about it. And I do think that for people like me, the loss of that shop, which is convenient, I do most of my shopping here. You'll see me at Gordo's, you'll see me at Ori, you'll see me on the lanes at Albany Bowl, having drinks at Hotsy Totsy. I think having them gone from the neighborhood would be a shame. And I also think having a little brother who just graduated high school and is on his way to Santa Barbara, kids these days buy everything online. At least they card. At least there's a bulwark there at their shop. Otherwise, these kids are going to be ordering it online. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer it, but I wanted to come out for a fellow small business owner who I think is really doing a good job.
Thank you.
All right, good evening, Mayor, Council. My name's Eileen Lewis, and I actually just found out about this meeting an hour prior to its start. I stopped at Better Cloud and to pick up my juice, and I found out about this, and I immediately canceled my dinner plans and made sure to come to this meeting, mostly because I feel very strongly about this store. And the ability for me to go there, because I live in El Cerrito, but I choose to drive to Albany instead of going to another store, because Better Cloud has always been a really, really wonderful establishment. Like he had mentioned earlier, high quality products. I just fully support them, so I had to come here. It's really personal to me because I started smoking at 13. I smoked for 18 years until I was 31. I tried to quit so many times, from gum to the patches. My doctor gave me some medicine, but it wasn't until I found vaping. And at first it didn't work for me because I didn't find the right flavor. There's different flavors you can choose from, and none of them resonated. The third time I tried it, I found fruity menthol flavors, and I was able to vape, which was amazing because now about 2 years later, I'm able to walk up the stairs and not be just completely out of breath. I just feel so much better. So in a way, I think it's really helped my quality of life, and my family's much happier. I'm much happier. My friends are much happier now that I'm vaping. So it really was important about the type of flavor. So that being available to me is great. I rather support them than buy online. I rather support a business in Albany because that's important to me, to have a vibrant business community. It's great for the community. I travel the world as a DJ. That's what I do on the weekends. I just got back from Mexico yesterday, and I have like a lot of great accomplishments, but the biggest accomplishment I've ever done was quit smoking cigarettes. I have to say that. And if it wasn't for vaping, that wouldn't have happened. So yeah, I just wanted to come out and support them. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening, council members, mayor. I'm up here to question why this ban is being brought to our attention. Why are we really doing this? Are we doing this to discourage teenagers from smoking? Or are we doing this to prevent current smokers from smoking? What is the purpose of this ban? Are we here talking about flavored tobacco? Or are we here talking about e-cigarettes? Because again, to clarify, e-cigarettes do not contain any tobacco. There are in fact no carcinogens in e-cigarettes at all. If you'd like, you can look at an independent study conducted by the British government in 2014 on the health benefits or the healthiness of vaping compared to cigarettes. It is 95% healthier than smoking cigarettes. So again, I just wanted to ask why. Because at the end of the day, what you're doing is you're limiting the accessibility for adults who are trying to quit smoking. We don't market to teenagers. The products themselves don't market towards teenagers. If you go online, if you go watch TV, I'm sure you won't find an ad that's conducted by a company that sells e-liquid, vape products, vape juice. You find campaigns against it, but you've never seen campaigns marketed towards promoting the product itself. So there is no actual promotion for teenagers and even adult smokers. With that, yeah, I just wanted to ask, why are we doing this? Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
May I ask one question? I'd like for you to please consider if you're going to pass this ban to grandfather us in, if that's at all possible. Thank you.
Are there other speakers? Come on down.
Good evening. My name's Ann Sakon, and I'm a member of APCA, which is the American Petroleum Convenience Store Association, and I'm also a president of a Franchise Owners Association. And I'm here to ask you, how come the people who sell the tobacco are not here? Is there a possibility that they were not notified or they didn't get the information? And I'm asking you, why, when you have a study, why is it when you're going to cut 20% of somebody's livelihood that they're not brought in and told and be a part of the decision of what to do? Maybe they have some ideas. Number 3, take into consideration, go Google it, find out where are these children getting that tobacco in the high schools or younger ages. They're not buying it from the convenience stores or the gas stations, guys. It's their parents, it's older adults, it's brothers and sisters. Convenience store owners cannot afford to lose their business. If they sell to a minor once, twice, they're out of business. They can't do it. We don't want to do it. As a business owner, I don't want any child to do it. I don't want them. We don't want it. They've put in laws already, the $2 on the cigarettes, the tobacco tax. Where's the results on that? Why is it that because El Cerrito did it, oh, wow, I can't be left behind, so we have to do it? Where's the study on all of this? Where are the facts that the store owners are selling to the minors? Where is it? It should be in paper. Study it. It's not like you're San Francisco. You've got 2,000 stores that you've got to go out and look at. Find out, is it a fact that they're doing it? Number 2, guys, you know what? The kids are too smart. They're going to get it online anyway. So would you rather not have a store owner who cards sell the product, or just somebody who can order it online? It's done very easily. So I'm just asking you guys, as a business owner, rethink what you're doing. Involve the local retailers. Involve the retailers that this is going to affect. Do you want to take a 20%? Would you like to come into a store, come into your job and them come up to you and say, oh, you know what? As of today, you're taking a 20% decrease in your income. Let these people know. I mean, go in and find out what's going on. Visit the stores, guys. They have things in place. If you have a driver's license, they scan it. And if it's not left up to, hey, is he old enough or isn't he? So please check into it. Thank you.
Thank you. Sure, go ahead.
I'd also just like to point out that this does seem to be a bit far-reaching. Once this ban is enacted, you begin a slippery slope. Where does it stop with other flavored products that are marketed as sweet? Flavored alcohol, which was mentioned earlier, flavored marijuana, or marijuana used in products such as baked goods, salty, savory foods. Where does this end? So I just want to bring that to the council's attention as well.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm not here to say anything different from what's already been said. By the way, I did not even receive a letter. I just found out this meeting 2 days ago, and which was unfortunate. So I'm not sure why I did not receive the letter regarding this ordinance.
Excuse me, can I just ask you something? What is your business?
7-Eleven on Solano Avenue.
Okay, thank you.
What I want to inform you of is, first of all, I think there is a misconception what these products are used for, as my other fellows have said here. I have many, many customers that come in who are trying to quit, and that is the reason for their purchases of these products. So definitely there is a misconception of that. As far as if we're trying to ban these products because they're being sold to minors, just like these individuals informed you, the business that I own is a franchise. We have a hardcore training program that we put in place. Not only is it done by the 7-Eleven corporate level, but it is also done internally at the franchisee owner level. So all of the employees go through a rigorous training before they're put on the cash register to sell tobacco products. Again, it is not just looking at an ID. I'm just trying to educate you here what process we go through, because I think that maybe was left out. We're not just simply looking at an ID. We are actually, our systems are very sophisticated. We ask for a driver license, and we are not looking at someone who is 21 years of age. We are carding people who are over 30, and those signs are placed on our point of sale locations. We take their IDs and we run them through our system, and it is a system that is telling us if they are of age. So we are not selling to minors. If they're getting these products, then definitely these products are available online. We mentioned Juul here. Juul is easily accessible through online. Again, as it was said, where are the facts? You know, we really need to look at the facts before we just follow our fellow cities. Just because El Cerrito has done it, we should do it. So again, I request that first we take a look at our facts, understand the products, and see what makes more sense for us to do. And definitely 20%, it's a big chunk of our earnings that that supports our families. So thank you. Any questions?
Thank you. Are there any other speakers? Okay,
Could I add just one last thing? If you guys have ever...
Only if you come up here.
I'm sorry. If you ever are in front of a convenience store, a gas station, walk up, just go by and look at the little can that they have for tobacco where we put our cigarette butts. You're going to find tobacco in there. And then you're going to ask yourself, well, why is the tobacco there? The tobacco's there because about 85% of the people who buy the flavored cigars are cutting them open, pouring out the tobacco, and then they go home and they add their marijuana to it. They're not smoking those cigars, guys. We're there, we see it. It took me a long time to realize, why is it always full of tobacco? That's where it's at. And guess what? Marijuana's legal.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else? Last one. Okay, then we'll close the public hearing. Bring it back to council for comments.
I guess I'll start. First, Mr. Kane, has the Solano Avenue Association taken any positions on this? I wasn't clear if your presence was just you speaking for yourself or for the
Solano
Merchants
Avenue Association we were just recently told about this. So we haven't formed an opinion. So that's why I spoke as Alan Kane, Blue Glove Crew. But I suspect it's going to be a hot topic. I mean.
Okay, that's good. Thanks for the clarification. I am a once-a-week member of Mr. Kane's Blue Glove Crew on Monday mornings. So I go around 4.8-mile walk through Albany and pick up litter, except when my fingers smashed up. And I see a lot of these little flavored tobacco. They look like he'll hold about 3 cigarettes. There's these little aluminum packages that are flavored. And it strikes me, it's interesting, although you see cigarette butts everywhere, more on San Pablo than Solano, but everywhere. You almost never see an empty box of cigarettes as litter, but you see these little flavored tobacco product litter all over, mostly on San Pablo, but everywhere. And I think that to me indicates that they're really treated more like sort of gateway candy items than they are a product that hardcore cigarette addicts buy, like just, packs of cigarettes. So that just confirms my feeling that I do think we should, if it's in our legal authority, and it is, ban flavored tobacco products, because they have all the problems that regular cigarettes have, plus they have flavors that, are attractive to kids. And about this, let me just say, when I was a college student at the University of Washington, teenagers would line up outside Safeway on Fridays, and they would come up to willing adults and ask them if they would buy beer for them. And so Safeway could legitimately claim, we don't sell beer to minors, but, they knew what was going on in the parking lot, right? So I think the question, it's an interesting question, and I'm pretty sure, Albany kids are smoking either flavored tobacco products or they're using products like Juul. And it is a good question, where are they getting them? I do think they're probably getting some of them from local retailers. People go in there and buy them and they resell them to kids. That's easy money. As the public health literature goes back and forth on vaping, on the one hand, it is far less dangerous for real nicotine addicts to vape than it is to smoke. But on the other hand, vaping, it's more and more clear that it's becoming a gateway product, and kids who wouldn't smoke cigarettes start vaping because that's cool and allowable, and they often later can end up switching to cigarettes. So this is, this one's a tricky issue. And I have more mixed feelings about vaping than flavored tobacco. I'm fine with, passing a ban on flavored tobacco. I guess I'll have to think about it some more. If we wanted to do informational meetings on it, there are public health people at the university at Berkeley who have studied this their whole careers. They could provide us with the latest scientific information. So I'm uncertain as to how to go. I'm certainly strongly leaning. If I had to vote on this ordinance tonight, I think I would vote to ban everything. But I'm not in that position. I do think we can think about it a little more. And that's clear as mud, right? But that's my thoughts right now.
Yeah, it's sort of a question. Is this the gateway drug for young people who then go on and smoke tobacco? Or is this a cure, potential cure for people who are smoking and want to get off of tobacco? And it would seem that it's both. And therein lies the problem, to the degree that this is a potential way to get tobacco smokers to smoke less or stop smoking. I could see we could be encouraging this, but it also seems pretty clear from what I can see that no matter how they get it, whether they're getting it online or from a friendly adult or, who knows, A lot of this has to do with a way to start a whole smoking pattern that we don't want to encourage. At least I don't personally think we should be encouraging it. If this could be shown to me as having, if it does have this curative value, which I suspect it does to some degree, it seems like it should be more in the realm of medical control. In other words, you would go to your physician and say, I can't get off cigarettes. Can I get a prescription to some kind of vaping or possibly even flavored tobacco if there's a way to eventually get to a no smoking point. But we don't have that situation, because of just historical, the way things have worked out. This is now in the realm of retail. And I don't think, physicians are going to want to take on prescribing vaping or flavored tobaccos. I do think that, as much as I think this was a goal of the council to get this banned in Albany, I'm a little uncomfortable the way this has been, the way it seems that this was presented out to the retailers. And I'd be more comfortable if there had been more outreach. If the 7-Eleven on Solano didn't hear about this until a few days ago, and I don't know, what the breakdown was there. We should have, this should have gone out a month ago.
It did. And it went to all the licensed vendors, including 7-Eleven, and we have a record of the entities that the mailer was sent to. What individuals do when they receive mail, we do not have control over that.
I know this is true with a lot of other things too. When we have a project that the city has sanctioned, and it's been going on for months, and then it starts, and none of the neighbors know about it, even though they were notified. So it's often the communication part is somewhat disturbing. I wish we had more hard facts right here that we could say definitely this is, if we stop this, we're going to keep people from being able to get off cigarettes. But I think it is, to me, it's pretty clear by the description of the trash that's being picked up and stuff that there's this is a growing industry, and I think there is a very strong gateway aspect to it, which particularly bothers me. I'll stop at this point.
Rochelle?
No comments at this time.
Okay, I guess it's my turn. I do think that it's a valid point that this has come up rather suddenly. It is not completely sudden, however. This was part of our one of our strategic initiatives that we've discussed for some time. That said, you somewhat have to be in the know that the city is convening these meetings about strategic initiatives, and this is one of them. I think there's always a balance. We want to do the most we can to educate or to inform the public. And of course, the more we do, the more it costs, and there's more staff time. So we have to strike a balance. But I do think it's valid that this has, for a number of people, this has come up rather suddenly. And I wonder if we wouldn't want to bring this more to the public and have a bigger town hall about the issue, and at least, I think, involve the retailers and the Solano Avenue Association and the Chamber of Commerce, involve them and ask their opinions about this. That would be my preference. I'm the guy who brought you the soda tax. And I'm not just me. It was, of course, a large group effort. But in thinking about that, that was a long process. I convened a public meeting about it, and then we had a ballot measure campaign, which allowed the opportunity for a lot of public input. In the end, a vote of the voters to pass that. We have the opportunity here to pass an ordinance, and we can do it in a much more compressed way. But do we need more public input? I think we might. We could have advertised this more in our city newsletter. Again, more outreach to the retailers and at least the Solano Avenue Association and the Chamber, I think might have been prudent. That said, I also understand the dangers of tobacco. I was a smoker until my early 40s. I was able to quit by myself, but it took 5 or more years to do so, a very, very lengthy process to quit. So I understand the addiction around nicotine, and that concerns me a great deal. A quick question for staff. I don't believe this went through the SCJC, is that correct?
No, it was on the City Council strategic plan, and it was already in the form of an ordinance. So it didn't go to Social and Economic Justice Commission.
Okay. We might want to think about doing that, about getting input that way. I think there's a lot of good points brought up in the discussion here. Can we tax these things instead of ban them? The convenience stores, I hear you and I believe it that they don't sell to minors. They would get shut down for doing so. That said, of course, there is the sale to others who can pass it along, I'm sure. The comment about medical control was a great one. If someone needs a substitute for medical reasons, perhaps that is the way they get that instead of through a store. I'm also sensitive to the fact that it appears that we have a legitimate business in town that is an upstanding business, and I'm sensitive to the impact on them. And also the fact that I don't believe that they card for online sales. What I'm imagining is if you claim you're 21, you can probably get these products on the internet. And so that puts the local stores at a disadvantage. So all that to say is that I don't think I would vote in favor of this tonight without more public input from the stakeholders I mentioned, the Chamber, Solano Avenue Association, the retailers, and SCJC. I might ultimately be in favor of it, but I'm sensitive, especially myself, of not knowing all the facts around this and all the implications. Unlike with the soda tax, where I came in with a much clearer understanding of what we should do. Thank you.
I have a question. I'm curious if our ordinance is modeled on one other cities, or were elements drawn from different cities. As I look at this list, it's hard to tell from these summaries exactly what is prohibited and what is accepted. And I'm just curious whether ours is parallel to one of the 4 on this list.
We modeled it primarily after the city of El Cerrito. However, many jurisdictions are using an agency website, Change Lab Solutions.
Mm-hmm. Okay, because this one says no, for El Cerrito, it says no sale of flavored tobacco products. So it's not clear to me if the e-cigarettes are included.
That's where our definition comes in. So you'll see that it's not one standard template. the ordinance that you have in front of you picks and chooses from a number of different examples. So we made sure in our definition that it did include the e-cigarette.
Okay, but El Cerrito does not.
Right.
Okay.
Is there some, I guess I'm looking for some middle ground between having a conventional second reading often, which is something that would be on the consent calendar, and running it through SEJC, which, because that was never our intention with this process, but it might be nice to have another meeting, sort of another first reading or something like it, where we can really get out and inform everyone, including parents and kids at the high school who might have very different opinions. I'm a little disappointed no one actually physically showed up to argue on behalf of kids and why they shouldn't be using Juuls and flavored cigarettes. So I don't know, can we do a do-over of this and then postpone the second hearing, or the second reading, or just have a second reading with enough room for discussion?
Can we do a study session before?
You can do any of the above options. It may be helpful to go through an advisory body because you'll have more time to consider it. If you'd like to do a study session, we can certainly do that. I don't know that we can notice the entire city. If you would like us to, we can. It comes at a significant cost. We can certainly get the message out through e-trees and through our e-newsletter. I'd like to also reiterate that we have had for a significant number of years an e-notify where people can sign up for city council agendas. So you could see what's on our agenda at any given time. A study session would be certainly fine, and we could schedule that. I'd like probably some time to do that, because if we're going to have technical questions, we may not have that data available to us now. If we're simply gathering input and to inform a more robust ordinance or other action, that would be fine.
That would, actually, at this point, that would probably be my preference. I do have to say, though, that I did meet with Alan Kane and with the Chamber of Commerce, not with a specific date in mind, but we did discuss the ramifications of doing this. And I've actually met with Alan twice, and he's over there nodding his head that, yes, indeed, that happened. So I think it's a little bit unfair to say that they were not informed and had no idea and had nothing to say. Well, I didn't give you the exact date. We did have this discussion.
No, but can I speak on that?
No.
I wonder if the city usually has a booth at the stroll. And I wondered if I know this is kind of last moment, but I'm wondering if there'd be some way to use that as a way to reach out to the public to talk about this particular item, that this is what we're thinking of doing. What do you think? It would be a very informal process, obviously, but would there be some way to either put out information as to, the city of Albany is considering banning flavored tobacco products. What's your opinion on this? What's on vaping? And it might give us a sense of where the rest of the city is at. My suspicion is, I think a good deal of the city will support this. But I do agree that it'd be good to kind of let everybody know, not just the city, but also retailers, and get everyone prepared for any change that might go down.
Yeah, I'm a little struggling to understand the ins and outs of the different products. Unfortunately, I'm not familiar with all of the items that are listed here, and know really, I know that e-cigarettes exist. I've seen them, but I know absolutely nothing about how they work or what their effect is. So I think I would like to have a better understanding, and perhaps a range of options. such as, Berkeley has it looks like Berkeley allows the sale, but has a buffer zone around schools. I do want to say, I think that the days of these products in society, at least in this area, is coming to an end. I don't know, and that I suspect that anything that we would do that would be less than this ordinance would likely be a stepwise type of thing, that we might take a lesser step, but ultimately this is the direction that the community here is going in. When it was put to the voters in San Francisco, they voted by a margin of better than 2-1 to ban the products. And I also, like Pete Moss, I think that if we put it to the voters here, the percentage might be even higher. So I think I would encourage everyone to consider that this is something that this community is phasing out. But I share other people's concern that everyone have a chance to weigh in on this. I'm a little concerned that we don't see social and economic justice commission type people here. I mean, I think there is a lot of opposition beyond Val Williams to these sales. So I think we almost certainly would do this eventually, but it may be worth considering a more limited version in the interim. I'd like to look at those possibilities. And I have to educate myself about e-cigarettes. I did not realize that various jurisdictions were distinguishing between the tobacco products and there looks like one of them calls it electronic tobacco versus actual tobacco. So I personally need to educate myself a little more before I can opine about that. I'm also a former smoker, and I think that the argument that the e-cigarette can be used to quit smoking is a serious concern. I mean, that does seem like something that could work for some people.
Yeah, I think that's well said about the direction that this area is going, and perhaps what the community would say. I don't fault staff at all for bringing it up in this way, because I think we did think it was a slam dunk given what we know about our constituents in our community. That said, I think it's never a great thing to push something through that we don't know a lot about, and never a great thing to have the perception that we're railroading something. So it sounds like there's some consensus that bringing this back to SEJC, Social and Economic Justice Commission, for more study and perhaps to gather more facts for us and more possibilities, more options for us would be the right thing to do. And that seems like it's something that would, and something that would burden staff not too much. And also, I don't think there's necessarily a need to be notifying the whole city about it. I think now the cat's out of the bag. I think you are going to notify all your stakeholders, and that it's going to be general knowledge that this is being discussed. So I think we need to keep the electronic notification going, but we don't need to postcard every house. Thank you.
Could I suggest that maybe the mayor and the city manager work together on to exactly what sort of format might be appropriate? I'm not sure it needs to be a 9-month process through SEJC, like rent review was, for example. Well, that was more like 2 years, but, and just in closing, just remember, in Albany, you can still buy cigarettes. We've never banned cigarettes, you just can't buy flavored cigarettes. If we pass this ordinance, you could still buy unflavored liquid nicotine e-cigs. You just couldn't buy flavored ones. And also, I'm on the Juul website right now. Juul does have an age verification thing that looks a lot like if you want to do your credit check, you have to give them your address and your last four of your social, et cetera, et cetera. There's a very similar procedure here for verifying age, which doesn't mean, a kid couldn't steal their parents' social security card and, do it that way. But, it's both ways. Whether you get it in the store, you get it online, you should be over 21. There's ways to get around it. And where we all come out on this, I'm not sure, but I think we need to look at it one more time.
I'm happy to work with the city manager. I would prefer that we simply have a study session of the council like we ended up doing with the rent review, like we did with the sanctuary city, and not push it all the way back to a commission to then have to come back to us. I think we're sort of involved. We've got the questions. I think it makes more sense for us to have a study session. Off the top of my head, I'm thinking maybe in October, but we can talk about it maybe later and go from there.
I'm fine with that, or bringing it to SCJC. I think the important thing is to make sure that staff has clear direction from us about exactly what they want back. Like, is it, what I'm hearing is we want more data about the various options we have and why we would choose doing one way or the other, and maybe also the health, the issues around the health. I mean, what are the flavored products necessarily unhealthier? I don't know. I think if we make sure we give staff the information about what exactly we want to bring back, we'll be most successful.
I think bringing it back to us for a study session makes the most amount of sense to me. But I would also say if SCJC wanted to weigh in, if it came up as a topic that if they had some angle of any of our committees, they might be the ones that could have a point of view about this. So
they'll need to change their work plan if they want to do this. So that'll push it back even further. I'd sort of like to move on this one way or the other. Only for a point of clarification.
Right. So at the times that we did meet, our conversations revolved around tobacco products that were rolled. This whole thing about vaping, I think you need to delineate the difference, because I guarantee you when I go and buy a package of wrapped tobacco, I'm going to empty it and go smoke weed with it. That's what that's being used. Okay? The vaping pens, you really can't say. I think that they have. I think you need to delineate the two. Those are two entirely different subjects.
Okay. That's more than we need to know right now.
And let me put in a pitch in addition to the Public Health Department at UC Berkeley. Researchers at Lawrence Berkeley National Lab have studied these products a lot, and these nicotine liquids are often not well regulated and have some organic compounds in them that are in and of themselves dangerous. So it might be nice for someone either on the staff or I could help to do a literature review or call those folks up and say, are they available to come to a study session?
So Nicole, do you have enough to go on, or do you need more?
No, that's clear direction. I am hopeful that I can get it in enough substance to be of assistance, with the understanding that no one on my staff is an expert in this industry. So the timing for when we return will probably be contingent on that to a degree.
And I think we have some experts here that are more than willing to help us. Okay, so you have your direction. We don't need to do anything else on this, right? Okay. Thank you all for coming, and sure we'll have more to say on this. Okay. Moving on to new business. Resolution 2018-105, adopting updated City Council administrative policies. Do we have a staff report, please?
Another item from the City Council strategic plan. This is putting into policy what the council has been doing by action. You have in your strategic plan a goal to establish a policy to evaluate options for inclusion of a low-income exemption for homeowners and a rebate for renters on any future taxes or franchise agreements. You'll see the draft policy is included as well as a resolution. It would be incorporated into the City Council administrative policies. The policy is basically establishing the fact that as part of consideration of any future tax levied on real property and any franchise agreement, the council shall evaluate options for inclusion of a low-income exemption for homeowners and a rebate for renters. There's also a procedure spelled out so that we know how to carry it out as we consider future taxes. And as indicated in the staff report, I'd just like to, again, note that this was included in the sidewalk parcel tax as well as the proposed parcel tax on the ballot in November 2018. Be happy to answer any questions you have.
Are there any questions from council?
A franchise agreement is?
Yeah, it's basically Waste Management of Alameda County is our garbage franchise hauler right now.
Okay.
So as that comes up again and we go out for bid proposals on a franchise agreement, we would ask for them to include the opportunity for a low-income exemption, or it'd probably just be an exemption at that point for ratepayers.
Are there exclusions on our current franchise agreements, or are there any that have these?
Currently, our existing franchise agreement allows for a senior exemption, but not a low income. So it would be a negotiating discussion with whoever that proposed franchisee would be.
Other questions? Is there public comment?
Yes.
Hello, Preston Jordan. Good evening, or night, I guess it's getting to be, council. And thanks to staff for writing this policy and for putting this in the strategic plan. I started the effort leading to this in 2011. The Social and Economic Justice Commission at that time passed a resolution asking for this policy to be adopted, so it's been about 7 years. In that time, the woman that I interacted with that led me to look into this issue has since had to move out of town because she couldn't afford to live here. One of the people who's on the Social and Economic Justice Commission who voted for it has since died, so it's been quite a long time getting this in place. The need for it has been clear. The last waste management franchise negotiation did not include discussion of providing for low-income families. It had a 45% overnight increase. Emeryville did prioritize that and was able to negotiate that in a franchise agreement, so it was simply a matter of not paying attention. I did ask for that fairly late in the process, and not surprisingly, staff was not able to get that at the time. Somewhat shockingly, what came out instead was a senior exemption without means testing, which some seniors are extraordinarily wealthy, some are not extraordinarily wealthy. I don't really see any reason why seniors as a group necessarily should get an exemption. Oftentimes they do get an exemption in ballot measures really as a means to draw the vote. But in a franchise agreement, there's no need for that. So it kind of went the wrong direction. In the sidewalk repair tax measure, the language that was sent to the registrar did not have an exemption or a rebate for renters in it. I read that and caught it. Fortunately, I was provided a copy by staff, caught that, and I was able to be retrofit in before the deadline. In the current measure to property tax measure to fund parks that's proposed, there was no renter rebate in that when it started. Through the League of Women Voters, wrote a letter asking council to add that. It was added, but the language that was added had a provision in it that the renter actually had to pay the tax, which of course renters don't pay the tax, so it was sort of a catch-22 situation. I spoke to rectify that, and that was rectified. So I think this is very much needed. Low-income households in Albany pay 2 to 3 times a percent of their income in taxes to the city as other households do. So our taxes are incredibly inequitable. And in order to make them equitable, not only do we have to have these provisions in taxes going forward, but the other half of the Social and Economic Justice Commission's resolution was to go back and look at our existing taxes, retrofit these into those taxes by putting those taxes up for reauthorization with these provisions in front of the voter. So I hope that you will also look at that in addition to adopting this policy. Thank you.
Thank you. Comments from council?
Just that I think this is the right thing to do. Thank you, staff, for putting this before us. And thank you, Mr. Jordan, for your advocacy and diligence and attention to detail on this issue. Very much needed and appreciated. That's it.
Yeah, two questions about the renter rebate. The renter rebate would be available only to people who reside in rental units for which tax is paid. So, for example, people living in the University Village, which are a lot of our very low-income people, they would not be eligible.
Right, there's a form that renters fill out each year and a notification that we send out. I'm looking for it on our website. And it goes through our tax administrator to review and affirm those rebates.
Do we have, and the other question is, do we have any data on the administrative burden versus the benefit to the beneficiaries?
For the renter rebates?
Yeah.
It's a fairly straightforward process. They have it ingrained into their system. We utilize the services of NBS to administer that program for us. And as you'll see on the screen, it's actually incorporated in a number of our different tax measures. So you basically check off the box for the ones that you're applying for.
Okay, so there's not a major administrative burden. Okay, good. Thank you.
But these require affirmative action on the part of the person who seeks the rebate, right?
Yes, annually there are some verification steps that are required. And we do send out a notice to the individuals as well as a public notice citywide.
Right. I remember there was a public notice in the last several months.
It's also sent through our e-notification system and our e-news. But there is a paper card that you do receive in your mailbox as well, because some people are not electronic.
You know, there are also, I will just say this, just to mention this. There are also some of the parcel taxes that still do have senior exemptions. I think some of the school district parcel taxes still have senior exemptions. And it's just a little confusing, because I had a neighbor who was eligible and she wasn't even aware that those senior exemptions existed. But that's not, do we still have any taxes that are senior exemption only?
I would need to double check. I know that our franchise agreement is, if you go to the form, I think there's a sheet that actually details the available exemptions. I can say that at our senior center, if seniors go to the senior center with this question, we have staff there that walk them through the process.
For either low income or senior?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
No. The only thing that I'd say is that we've been doing this for a while, so it's really good to have it formalized. And Nicole, thank you for doing all the work to get this on the agenda. And also, I do appreciate the community members, including Preston, who have really shepherded this along and always remind us of things that we can and we should be doing to help our most vulnerable community members. So thank you for that. With that, I'll accept a motion to adopt Resolution 2018-05.
So moved.
Seconded.
Poll the council, please.
Councilmember Barnes?
Yes.
Councilmember Moss?
Yes.
Councilmember Pilch?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nason?
Yes.
Mayor McQuaid?
Yes, and the motion carries. Okay, other business announcements of events, future agenda items?
Solano Stroll's coming up.
Right here. The next city council meeting will be on Monday, September 17th. And tonight we are adjourning in memory of several people that have passed away since we last met. Senator John McCain, Congressmember Ron Dellums, George Corrali, who's the son of Bob Langbein, owner of East Bay Paints, right next door. Nasim Anaden, who's the daughter of the owner of the Arco station across the street. She was killed in that plane crash in Southern California a few weeks ago. And also Bud Reed, the son of Charles McGregor. So let's take a moment to remember these people. And with that, we are adjourned.